the Chi-Town Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
NFL insider Adam Schefter just said something on the Pat McAfee show today that could be really good news for the Chicago Bears. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, we have something really interesting to talk about on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, and I understand this is my second video of the day, but this video basically piggybacks off the last video that I made earlier today, where we were discussing about the Myles Garrett situation. If you guys are unaware about what's going on with Myles Garrett, he officially requested a trade out of Cleveland. He is looking for a fresh start. He is looking to go to a Super Bowl contender to finish his Hall of Fame NFL career. Currently, the Cleveland Browns are not wanting to trade a guy like Myles Garrett, and rightfully so. He's 29 years old. He's a future Hall of Famer. He has been great for the Cleveland Browns, but I think if they hear a good enough offer, I think they will end up shipping away Myles Garrett, especially when you're looking at the landscape of the Cleveland Browns. They can definitely use a fresh start because at the end of the day, they are losing with Myles Garrett. Even as great as he is, they are still losing with him. So originally, Myles Garrett once again said, hey, I want to go to a contender. I want to win before I hang up the cleats, and rightfully so. I think if he ends up with a team like the Detroit Lions or the San Francisco 49ers or the Buffalo Bills, he would be able to elevate any of those teams to really make a push for a Super Bowl championship. And you know, Bears fans all day long, including myself on the video that I made earlier today, we're basically saying, hey, you know, I think Myles Garrett is a great player at 29 years old, though. I'm not sure if I would do it, right? You know, because the Cleveland Browns are going to be looking for multiple first-round picks, and he is still owed around $61 million. So when you put two and two together, when you say, hey, I got to give up multiple first-round picks and still pay the guy $61 million, and he's probably going to be looking for a new contract to probably make him one of the highest-paid defensive players in the National Football League. So when you look at the Chicago Bears stance right now, they have way more needs than just an edge rusher. And yes, the Chicago Bears do need an edge rusher alongside Montez Sweat, but when you look at their current situation, we don't really feel like most Bears content creators and maybe even some analysts out there, we don't feel like we are one player away. We don't feel like we're Myles Garrett away from maybe making a Super Bowl push. So when you put those things together, you would think that Myles Garrett wouldn't be interested in possibly coming to Chicago, because the Chicago Bears are not currently a contender. I think we're maybe a year or two away from possibly adding the right pieces in place. Obviously, we got Ben Johnson, the big fish in the coaching cycle. He's putting together a star-studded coaching staff. We have Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Montez Sweat, Javon Dexter, among others. So we have the pieces, but I still think Ryan Poles needs to put some other things together to really elevate us into Super Bowl contenders. So right now, Bears fans think that we really have no chance in Myles Garrett if Ryan Poles or Ben Johnson were actually interested in acquiring Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. But NFL insider Adam Schefter is really talking like maybe the Bears could be an option for Myles Garrett. He was on the Pat McAfee show today, and he name-dropped the Chicago Bears for Myles Garrett. So what I'm going to do right now in today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I'm going to show you that little clip of Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show, and then we're going to discuss that because I really felt like it was interesting because out of all the teams that he could have name dropped for Myles Garrett, he mentioned the Chicago Bears. Check this out, Bears fans.
Okay. Now again, what if they said we're trading you? I'm making this up to Chicago. Is Chicago is Chicago a Super Bowl contender right now? But what if Chicago, he feels like I think the best way of saying it, he wants to go to what he believes is a Super Bowl contender. But I think as we talk about this, I think that would be a place that he believes gives him more hope to win a Super Bowl.
All right, Bears fans. So I found that clip really interesting. I just want to get your guys' opinion on it. And I don't really want to blow this thing up too much because, once again, Adam Schefter might be speculating or he may not. He may not be, right? So it's one of those things when you hear Adam Schefter say something, I tend to listen. Just a month ago, when the Chicago Bears were in a bidding war or in a back and forth, a bidding war to land Ben Johnson with the Las Vegas Raiders, and the trend was going to saying, hey, Ben Johnson's going to be a Raider. Ben Johnson's going to be a Raider. Adam Schefter was one of the only insiders that came out and said, hey, why are people forgetting about the Chicago Bears? A couple of days later, Ben Johnson was named the Chicago Bears' next head coach. So when Adam Schefter says something, I tend to listen very closely. And the one thing that I really took from that clip on the Pat McAfee show was when he said, yes, it's true. Myles Garrett is looking for a contender. He wants to win an NFL championship. But he's like, you also have to think that if you, for example, look at a team like the Chicago Bears, there's more hope of him going to Chicago and taking them over the hump to win an NFL championship rather than him staying in Cleveland. So he's basically saying the Chicago Bears have more hope than the Cleveland Browns to win an NFL championship. And the reason why Adam Schefter is saying this, because once again, you have Caleb Williams, you have Ben Johnson, you have, to me, on paper, a very good coaching staff, a much improved coaching staff here in Chicago. You already have a really good defense now with a really good defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen, and you still have some money to spend and some resources to really put this thing together. And what Adam Schefter is probably thinking is, could Myles Garrett be that missing piece for the Chicago Bears, right? So it's a really interesting conversation. Once again, my stance on this is yes, when you look at Myles Garrett, he's a 6-time Pro Bowler, an all-pro NFL player. He has had 7 10-plus sack seasons in the first 8 years of his NFL career. He still has 2 years left on his contract. And once again, he's probably going to be looking for, maybe a new contract extension to probably make him one of the highest paid NFL defensive players in the National Football League. But when push comes to shove, he's 29 years old, about to be 30 years old, which is not really a good age for an NFL player, especially an NFL edge rusher. I still think he has a lot left in the tank, but the Chicago Bears have so many different areas of need. We still need to build the offensive line to protect Caleb Williams. We still need to find some other pieces on the defense, right, as well. I just think the Chicago Bears can use their resources on multiple players, not just one in Myles Garrett. Once again, Myles Garrett is a future Hall of Famer. I think it would be a really interesting thing to see him on the same defensive line as Gervon Dexter, as Montez Sweat. I think he would elevate the defensive line. But at the end of the day, I am not willing to give up multiple first-round picks and mortgage the future. The Chicago Bears need to think differently. If Ryan Pace was still the Chicago Bears general manager, then yes, he would probably make this move. And we all know that Ryan Poles is very aggressive too, right? He traded his number 1 overall pick, traded down to get DJ Moore and all the other assets. He traded a couple of second-round picks to get Montez Sweat and Chase Claypool a couple of years back. And those results have varied. But what Ryan Poles has proven is that he is willing to do anything to make the Chicago Bears better. So maybe Ryan Poles is interested in getting a guy like Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. But if it were me, I'm not willing to give up my number 10 overall pick, my 39th and 41st overall pick, and a next year's first to get a guy like Myles Garrett. He's great. He's a future Hall of Famer, but the Chicago Bears have more needs on their roster than just Myles Garrett. If this was a couple of years down the road, right, and the Chicago Bears needed one more player to get over the hump, let's say, 2 years in a row, they went to the divisional round and lost. Then they went to the NFC Championship game and lost. And they needed one more player to really get them over the hump. Then yes, I would go out and trade for a guy like Myles Garrett. But at the same time, the Chicago Bears are not in that position. They're still currently in their rebuild. They still need to build offensive line for Caleb Williams. And when you look at the Chicago Bears currently, they need to worry about winning football games in the postseason. The Chicago Bears haven't won a postseason game since 2010. They haven't had a winning season since 2018. And the last time they went to an NFL playoffs was back back in 2020. But overall, the whole point of this video is I thought the Chicago Bears really had no chance at a guy like Myles Garrett, just due to the fact that he wants to go to a contender. But the fact that Adam Schefter name dropped the Chicago Bears for a guy like Myles Garrett, I may be looking too much into it, but I found it really intriguing. So Bears fans, let me know how you're feeling about Adam Schefter name dropping the Chicago Bears when talking about Myles Garrett. Do you think I'm looking too much into it, or do you think there's, some fire, when he's talking about the Bears and Myles Garrett? Let me know down below what you're thinking. But as always, Bears fans, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears that you know. But other than that, be back for our all new Bears podcast right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.